Holy Spirit, show me how to fight back against spiritual attacks to my family. You can feel it even before anyone says a word. The sudden tension in the air, the heaviness that settles in your home without explanation, the silence that feels sharper than any argument. You try to convince yourself it is just stress, exhaustion, or another ordinary day. Yet something inside you whispers that this is not natural. Something is trying to touch your family in ways you cannot fully see. And deep down, you sense it is not coincidence. It is not random. It is not harmless. It is a spiritual attack designed to weaken the very foundation of your home. There are moments when the enemy does not knock loudly. He slips in quietly, pushing confusion between people who love each other, creating distance where there used to be connection, planting irritation where there used to be peace. You notice the change, but cannot explain the source. You feel the pressure, but cannot point to the cause. That is when the Holy Spirit begins to stir in your heart, urging you to look deeper, to stop treating spiritual warfare as if it were merely emotional turbulence. You were never meant to face these battles alone. The Holy Spirit knows every invisible plan sent against your family, every unseen influence that tries to manipulate the atmosphere of your home, every dark attempt to drain your strength, patience, and unity. And the Spirit of God is ready to show you what you cannot discern with your natural vision. The Holy Spirit reveals the strategies of the enemy not to frighten you, but to equip you, to strengthen you, to awaken the warrior inside you that has been silent for too long. Right now, your home is not just a place where you live. It is territory, sacred territory. And any territory that carries destiny will face attack. The enemy goes after families because he fears what God has planned through them. He fears the generation that will rise after you. He fears the blessing that surrounds your house, even if you do not see it yet. But the Holy Spirit walks through the rooms of your home with authority, inspecting every corner, every atmosphere, every unspoken agitation, and he asks you a single question that changes everything. What if the reason your family is under attack is because heaven marked your home for a greater purpose? This is the moment when the Holy Spirit begins to open your eyes. Not to scare you, but to empower you. Not to expose your weakness, but to reveal the strength already placed within you. You are invited into a deeper awareness, a level of spiritual clarity where you stop reacting to attacks and start confronting them. In this message, you will learn why the enemy targets your home, how he slips into the unnoticed places, and how the Holy Spirit trains you to fight back with precision, authority, and victory. Holy Spirit, show us what is attacking our home that we cannot see. The silent tactics the enemy uses against families. There are battles you can hear and battles you can see, but the most dangerous ones are the battles that slip into your home quietly. The enemy understands that most families do not fall apart because of one catastrophic event. They fracture slowly, through tiny infiltrations that go unnoticed until the damage is already done. This is why the enemy rarely begins with storms. He begins with shadows, small shifts that feel innocent on the surface but are strategic in the spiritual realm. And if you do not learn to recognize these tactics, you end up fighting the symptoms instead of confronting the source. The enemy's first tactic is emotional disconnection. It appears as subtle distance between people who once felt close. Conversations become shorter, eye contact becomes rare, and affection turns into routine. You sense something missing, but you are not sure when it disappeared. This is not just relational fatigue. It is an invisible attack designed to drain the unity God placed in your home. Disconnection is the enemy's way of weakening the bond before he attempts to break it. Then, there is sudden irritability. You find yourself reacting sharply to small things that never bothered you before. Your patience evaporates quickly, and your tone becomes harsher than your heart intends. Moments that should be resolved in seconds become arguments that last hours. This irritability is not always emotional. Sometimes it is a spiritual agitation, seeking to provoke conflict inside your home, because conflict weakens focus and steals clarity. Coldness and silence are another silent tactic. The enemy knows the power of unspoken pain. When thoughts are locked inside and communication shuts down, shadows grow. Silence leaves room for assumptions, and assumptions become the breeding ground for division. The enemy uses coldness not to punish you, but to immobilize you, because a silent home becomes an easy battlefield for spiritual influence. And then there is that unusual fatigue, that heaviness that follows your family even when no one has done anything physically draining. You wake up tired, you rest but feel no renewal. You sit together, yet everyone feels disconnected from themselves. This is not ordinary tiredness. It is the spiritual draining that happens when your home becomes the target of unseen forces meant to weaken your strength before a breakthrough arrives. These behaviors are not random. They are infiltration points. The enemy studies families long before he attacks them. He waits for open emotional wounds, unspoken frustrations, and moments of vulnerability. Then he inserts division, confusion, and heaviness into the atmosphere, hoping you will blame each other instead of recognizing the spiritual strategy at work. But the Holy Spirit exposes these tactics. The Spirit reveals that what looks like behavior is often spiritual interference. What feels like distance may be a targeted attempt to steal unity. What seems like irritation may be a disruption of peace. What appears as exhaustion may be the signal that your family is under coordinated pressure. When you begin to recognize these signs for what they truly are, something shifts inside you. You stop being confused and start being aware. You stop feeling defeated and start feeling awakened. You realize that the enemy's silence is not evidence of peace. It is evidence of strategy. And awareness is the first step toward victory. The battle for atmosphere inside your home. Every home carries an atmosphere, a spiritual climate that shapes emotions, decisions, and relationships. Most people think their home is affected only by busyness, personality differences, or daily stress. But the truth is that the enemy does not attack people first. He attacks atmosphere. If he can pollute the environment of your home, he can influence everything happening inside it. Atmosphere is the invisible stage where every spiritual battle is fought. And the enemy knows that whoever controls the atmosphere controls the direction of the family. There are days when the house feels heavy, even if nothing bad happened. You walk into a room and sense tension that was not there before. You hear a tone of voice that doesn't sound like the person you love. You watch joy slowly drain from the environment, even though you're trying to carry the day with peace. This is not imagination. The atmosphere of a home can shift because spiritual forces are fighting for influence over the heart of your family. The enemy's goal is simple. If he can make your home feel chaotic, rushed, or emotionally cold, he can weaken trust. If he can make the atmosphere feel thick or oppressive, he can wear down your spiritual sensitivity. When the atmosphere is disrupted, unity becomes harder and misunderstandings begin to multiply. What you feel emotionally often begins spiritually long before you realize it. This is why the Holy Spirit comes as the keeper of atmosphere. The Spirit of God moves gently but with authority, restoring peace where turbulence tried to settle. When the Holy Spirit enters a room, confusion loses strength, anger loses fuel, and anxiety loses its grip. The Spirit does not need noise or drama to bring transformation. The Spirit shifts the atmosphere through presence, through truth, through the quiet certainty that God is still in control. Think of your home as a spiritual garden. Atmosphere is the soil. If the soil is poisoned, the seeds struggle to grow regardless of how much love or effort you put into them. Relationships become fragile. Patience becomes thin. Even prayer feels difficult. But when the Holy Spirit purifies the atmosphere, conversations soften, conflicts de-escalate, and hearts become open again. What once felt like a war zone becomes sacred ground. This is what spiritual warfare inside a home truly looks like. It is not always loud. Sometimes it is the fight to protect the tone of your conversations. Sometimes it is the fight to guard your peace when irritation rises. Sometimes it is choosing forgiveness instead of holding on to silent anger. These small battles shape the climate of your home and determine whether the enemy finds room to operate or is forced to flee. Atmospheric warfare is real. It is the battle for spiritual influence inside the four walls where your family lives, sleeps, argues, prays, and dreams. The enemy tries to claim that space without being noticed. The Holy Spirit claims it with undeniable authority. And once you understand this, you stop accepting strange heaviness as normal. You stop overlooking the sudden changes in tone and energy. You begin to see that your home is not just a place. It is contested territory in the spiritual realm. And once you recognize that, you can fight with precision instead of confusion. You can fight with peace instead of fear. You can fight with awareness instead of exhaustion. Because the Holy Spirit equips you to take back the atmosphere the enemy attempted to invade. The Holy Spirit as the defender of the family line. If the enemy's attacks feel personal, it is because they are. He is not only targeting your present struggles, he is targeting your lineage. Every family carries a spiritual inheritance, a destiny that stretches beyond one generation. The enemy studies that destiny and tries to interrupt it long before it unfolds. He fears what God intends to build through your children and through the generations that will follow them. This is why the attacks against your home often feel disproportionate to the situation. The enemy is not fighting who you are today. He is fighting who your family will become tomorrow. When the Holy Spirit steps into this reality, he does not come merely as a comforter. He comes as the defender of legacy. The Spirit sees what God planted in your bloodline and stands guard over it with authority. The Holy Spirit knows that a home protected today becomes a foundation for the breakthroughs of tomorrow. Every moment of unity, every prayer whispered in faith, every act of forgiveness, every choice to walk in truth strengthens the spiritual walls that shield your family's destiny. There are attacks that do not make sense if you only look at the present moment. Sudden emotional warfare, unexpected confusion, or conflicts that appear out of nowhere often reveal a deeper strategy aimed at your family tree. When the enemy knows a generation is rising with purpose, he tries to contaminate the lineage by stirring division, planting fear or causing discouragement to take root. He attempts to break the branch before it bears fruit, but the Holy Spirit interrupts these plans. The Spirit preserves what God appointed for your family even when you cannot see the full picture. The Holy Spirit stands between your home and the spiritual forces that try to invade it, declaring that no assignment against your household will steal the legacy God placed upon it. The Spirit defends not only your marriage, not only your children, but the generational blessings waiting to unfold through your lineage. Think about the patterns your family has faced. Patterns of fear, of emotional struggle, of silence, of conflict. These are not just human tendencies. They are battles over inheritance. The Holy Spirit breaks these patterns because the Spirit refuses to let the enemy write the future of your household. What came to previous generations does not have the authority to rule over the next one when the Holy Spirit steps in. The Spirit also awakens awareness in you. Suddenly, you begin to see the battles you face with new clarity. You begin to understand why the pressure intensifies at certain moments, why your home becomes the target during seasons of growth, why relationships feel strained right before God is about to move. The Holy Spirit shows you that your fight is not simply for peace today. You are fighting for the freedom of the generations that will come after you. And once you grasp this, something powerful happens inside you. A new kind of strength rises, a strength rooted not in fear, but in purpose. A strength that refuses to surrender territory that belongs to your family. A strength that speaks with authority because you now understand that protecting your home is protecting your legacy. The Holy Spirit fights for your family line. And with Him, you do not defend alone. The gift of discernment, seeing what your physical eyes cannot. There are moments when everything around you looks normal, yet something in your spirit feels unsettled. You sense shifts you cannot explain. You notice tension that seems out of place. You feel a pressure that does not match the circumstances. This is not paranoia. This is discernment awakening inside you. The Holy Spirit gives you the ability to see beyond the surface so you can confront what your natural eyes would never detect. Discernment is not suspicion. It is not guessing. It is a spiritual perception that reveals the difference between what appears harmless and what is spiritually harmful. The enemy depends on invisibility. His greatest advantage is going unnoticed. He hides inside moods, habits, and sudden emotional changes, hoping you will blame yourself or the people you love, instead of recognizing the spiritual influence behind it. Discernment strips away this invisibility and exposes the truth. The Holy Spirit sharpens your internal vision, the way sonar reveals what lies beneath deep waters. You are no longer reacting blindly. You are sensing patterns that are not random. You are recognizing when heaviness does not belong to you. You are noticing when a conversation shifts from human frustration to spiritual provocation. You start feeling when a thought is not your own and when an atmosphere has been altered by something unseen. And this is where discernment becomes one of the most powerful gifts in spiritual warfare. Without it, you fight symptoms. With it, you confront the real source. The Holy Spirit shows you motives hidden behind actions. The Spirit reveals traps disguised as distractions. The Spirit alerts you when your home is being pulled toward conflict, isolation, or discouragement. The Spirit helps you detect emotional fatigue that is not physical, confusion that is not logical, and tension that has no natural explanation. The enemy counts on you ignoring these signals. He wants you to assume you are just tired or irritated. He wants you to believe your family is simply going through a rough season. But discernment teaches you that some battles are not emotional fluctuations. They are spiritual intrusions. And when you begin to see them clearly, the battle shifts in your favor. Discernment also protects your words. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause because the Holy Spirit whispers that the moment is spiritually charged. You begin to speak less from frustration and more from truth. You choose silence when silence is wise, and you choose confrontation when confrontation is necessary. This balance is not natural. It is guided by the Spirit. And then something even more powerful happens. Discernment helps you anticipate attacks before they fully manifest. You notice early signs of division trying to grow. You sense when peace is being drained. You discern when someone in your home is carrying a spiritual weight they cannot articulate. You are no longer just a participant in your home's atmosphere. You become a guardian of it. The Holy Spirit does not reveal these things to overwhelm you. The Spirit reveals them to empower you. Once you see the enemy's subtle movements, his influence weakens. Once you recognize his patterns, his strategies collapse. Once you discern his presence, he loses the element of surprise. This is why the Holy Spirit gives you eyes that see beyond the natural. Because your family deserves more than reaction. It deserves protection, guided by divine insight. How to detect? When your family is under coordinated spiritual attack, there are moments when the pressure inside your home does not make sense. Arguments appear without a trigger. Peace evaporates in seconds. Small misunderstandings grow into emotional storms that feel out of proportion. When these patterns begin forming all at once, you are not dealing with random tension. You are facing a coordinated spiritual attack. The enemy rarely moves in isolated strikes. He attacks in sequences, building pressure layer by layer, hoping you will be overwhelmed before you realize what is happening. One of the clearest signs of coordinated attack is the cycle of repeated misunderstanding. You speak clearly, yet you feel unheard. Someone in the home expresses something simple, yet it is received as criticism. In these moments, communication becomes distorted, as if the emotional frequency of the house has been altered. This distortion does not come from human failure alone. It is often spiritual interference attempting to fracture unity at its most vulnerable points. Another sign is the sudden heaviness that enters the home during peaceful moments. It can happen right after a good day, a moment of laughter, or a time of connection. A weight drops over the atmosphere without warning, draining joy and clouding thoughts. This heaviness is not just mood, it is spiritual pressure trying to suffocate the harmony that God is building in your family. Dreams can also signal spiritual unrest. When family members begin having night disturbances, spiritual nightmares, or dreams filled with conflict or fear, it often reveals that the enemy is attempting to plant anxiety or confusion in the subconscious. Dreams become battlegrounds because the enemy knows that a disturbed night becomes a vulnerable day. The Holy Spirit uses dreams to reveal what needs attention, while the enemy uses dreams to inject fear. Discernment separates one from the other. You may also notice financial friction appearing unexpectedly, even if nothing in your circumstances has changed. Bills collide, expenses appear out of nowhere, or financial pressure increases without logical reason. This is not always poor planning. Sometimes it is a spiritual attempt to destabilize the foundation of the home, because the enemy knows financial stress is one of the quickest ways to create emotional strain and silence spiritual focus. Another marker of coordinated attack is simultaneous emotional fatigue within the family. Everyone feels worn out at the same time. The house feels drained. Even rest does not restore energy. This synchronized exhaustion is rarely physical. It is spiritual resistance pressing down on the household, trying to weaken resilience before the family recognizes the warfare. These patterns matter because spiritual attacks rarely announce themselves. They blend into daily life until the home begins functioning in survival mode. The enemy's strategy is to make you misinterpret spiritual pressure as personal failure. But once you begin identifying these coordinated attacks, the atmosphere shifts. Awareness exposes the enemy's movements. Recognition breaks his momentum, and understanding gives you authority to respond. The Holy Spirit does not show you these signs to alarm you. The Spirit reveals them so you can stand with clarity rather than confusion. When you know the difference between natural tension and spiritual warfare, you fight more effectively. You respond with intentional prayer. You guard your words. You protect your peace. You refuse to surrender unity to invisible forces that were never meant to have access to your home. When you can detect a coordinated spiritual attack, you are already one step ahead of it. And when the Holy Spirit guides your awareness, no strategy formed against your family can remain hidden. The Holy Spirit's strategy of counterattack. When the enemy attacks your home, he expects you to respond emotionally, not spiritually. He expects frustration, not discernment. He expects silence, not authority. But the Holy Spirit never teaches you to defend passively. The Spirit trains you to counterattack with a strategy that dismantles the enemy's influence from the inside out. Spiritual warfare is not about shouting louder. It is about striking with precision, guided by the Spirit who sees every hidden angle of the battle. The Holy Spirit's first layer of counterattack is truth that burns lies. The enemy thrives in distortion. He twists perception, inflates fears, and magnifies insecurities. He inserts lies that sound like your own thoughts to weaken courage and break unity. But when the Holy Spirit brings truth into your home, the enemy loses his camouflage. Truth restores clarity in conversations. Truth exposes emotional manipulation. Truth reminds your family who they really are and who they do not belong to. Every lie the enemy releases collapses when truth enters the room, because truth grounds the heart in what is unshakable. The second layer is peace that suffocates chaos. Peace is not passive. Peace is a weapon that destabilizes spiritual agitation. The enemy uses chaos to provoke reactions that open doors to conflict. But the Holy Spirit releases peace that interrupts this cycle, calming the atmosphere with authority. Peace realigns emotions. Peace resets the spiritual temperature of your home. Peace blocks the enemy from feeding on tension. When you allow the Spirit to establish peace, you disarm the enemy's momentum. Chaos cannot survive where the Spirit breathes rest. The third layer is authority that crushes torment. The enemy hopes you will forget the authority God placed inside you. He wants you to believe you are defenseless so he can operate freely. But the Holy Spirit awakens your authority, reminding you that spiritual attacks do not dictate the destiny of your home. Authority is the moment when you stop reacting and begin declaring. Authority is when you refuse to let darkness narrate the atmosphere. Authority is when you speak not from emotion, but from identity. When you stand in spiritual authority, the enemy understands he cannot remain. These three layers work together. Truth clears the mind. Peace stabilizes the heart. Authority commands the atmosphere. When the Holy Spirit activates all three, your home becomes a battleground the enemy cannot withstand. You stop fighting each other and start confronting the real enemy behind the conflict. You stop surrendering days to frustration and begin reclaiming space through spiritual alignment. The Holy Spirit also guides you in the timing of counterattack. There are moments when speaking brings breakthrough, and moments when silence protects you from unnecessary wounds. The Spirit directs your steps so your counterattack is effective rather than reactive. Every action becomes intentional. Every word becomes strategic. Every moment becomes an opportunity to reclaim territory. This is not about shouting prayers out of fear. It is about moving under the Spirit's direction with steady confidence. When the Holy Spirit leads your counterattack, you do not fight from weakness. You fight from a position of victory already established by God. The enemy may attack, but he cannot prevail against a home that responds with truth, peace, and authority, restoring what the enemy has been draining. There are seasons when you look around your home and realize something has been slowly slipping away. Joy feels thinner. Conversations feel heavier. Motivation, affection, patience, and spiritual strength begin to drain without a clear reason. These are not just emotional fluctuations. These are spiritual leaks. The enemy does not always attack by breaking something instantly. Often, he weakens your family by draining what keeps the home spiritually alive. The Holy Spirit steps into this reality not only to expose the leak, but to restore everything the enemy has been silently drawing out of your household. One of the first leaks the enemy creates is emotional depletion. You notice that simple interactions feel exhausting. Acts of kindness feel heavier than usual. Even moments meant to be joyful feel incomplete. The enemy drains emotional energy because a weary heart becomes easier to divide. But the Holy Spirit restores emotional strength from the inside out. The Spirit breathes renewal into the places where heaviness tried to settle and lifts the emotional weight that was not yours to carry. Another leak appears in the form of time loss. Hours slip away in ways that feel unproductive or distracted. Days pass where little is accomplished, yet fatigue increases. This is not just poor schedule management. It is a spiritual attempt to weaken progress by dissolving focus. But the Holy Spirit restores time through clarity. The Spirit realigns priorities, breaks cycles of distraction, and breathes purpose into the hours that once felt wasted. What the enemy tried to scatter, the Spirit gathers back with intention. There are also leaks of energy. You find yourself exhausted by simple tasks. You lack motivation for things you once enjoyed. Rest does not seem to repair the fatigue. This is spiritual exhaustion disguised as physical tiredness. The enemy drains energy to dull spiritual sensitivity, hoping you will mistake warfare for personal weakness. But the Holy Spirit restores energy by lifting spiritual burdens, resetting the inner atmosphere, and bringing a strength that does not depend on circumstances. Perhaps the most dangerous leak is the loss of joy. Joy is not a feeling. It is spiritual armor. When joy is drained, your home becomes more vulnerable to irritability, frustration, and discouragement. The enemy knows this, so he targets joy through small disappointments, lingering frustrations, and subtle discouragement. But the Holy Spirit restores joy by reminding your spirit of God's presence, God's promises, and God's nearness. The Spirit fills the atmosphere with hope again, reviving what seemed lost. These leaks often go unnoticed because they happen slowly. The enemy counts on this. He hopes you will adapt to lower levels of peace, lower levels of joy, and lower levels of spiritual strength until the home becomes tired and divided. But when the Holy Spirit reveals the leak, everything changes. Awareness becomes restoration, discernment becomes healing, understanding becomes breakthrough. The Holy Spirit does not simply stop the leak. The Spirit restores what was drained. The emotional strength that faded begins to return. The energy you thought you lost rises again. The days that felt empty regain meaning. The joy that seemed distant comes back with force. This restoration is not gradual, it is decisive. When the Holy Spirit seals the leak, the enemy loses access to the area he was quietly using to weaken your home. And when restoration begins, you feel the shift. Conversations lighten, the atmosphere warms, peace returns to rooms that felt hollow. Hope begins to breathe inside the walls of your home again. What the enemy tried to drain, the Holy Spirit fills to overflowing. How to use your words as weapons over your household. There is a reason the enemy fights so hard to influence the tone of your home. Words shape atmosphere. Words open doors. Words build or break spiritual walls. Most families underestimate how powerful their voice becomes in moments of pressure. The enemy knows that if he can push you to speak from irritation rather than truth, he can weaken the spiritual covering over your household. But when the Holy Spirit takes control of your words, your voice stops repeating the pressure around you and begins shaping the atmosphere with authority. Your words are not echoes, they are weapons. Every sentence you release either strengthens the walls of your home or gives the enemy room to operate. This is why spiritual warfare often intensifies around communication. The enemy tries to twist meanings, provoke harsh speech, or trigger emotional reactions, because he understands that the spoken atmosphere determines whether peace or chaos governs the home. Yet the Holy Spirit interrupts this cycle by teaching you how to speak with intentionality, precision, and spiritual weight. One of the first things the Holy Spirit restores is your tone. The Spirit softens anger before it becomes a wound. The Spirit calms agitation before it becomes conflict. When the Holy Spirit guides your speech, words that once carried frustration begin carrying clarity. Statements that once fueled division begin building connection. The Spirit replaces emotional reaction with spiritual influence, and the entire atmosphere shifts. The Holy Spirit also teaches you to build verbal barricades. These are declarations that block spiritual intrusion and redefine the territory of your home. You are not yelling into the air. You are establishing boundaries that darkness cannot cross. When you speak peace, you are not merely expressing a desire. You are enforcing a spiritual law. When you declare unity, you are not describing a dream. You are commanding the atmosphere to align with what God has already spoken. Words guided by the Spirit do not inform the room, they transform it. Another important dimension is silence. Not the silence of withdrawal, but the silence of strategy. There are moments when the Holy Spirit holds your tongue because the atmosphere is spiritually charged, and the wrong word could open a door you do not want opened. In those moments, silence becomes protection. The Spirit teaches you when to speak with authority and when to remain still with wisdom. Both are weapons when they are guided by God. The enemy hopes you will use your words impulsively. The Holy Spirit hopes you will use them intentionally. When you allow the Spirit to lead, your speech stops reflecting the attack and begins resisting it. Arguments lose their fuel, misunderstandings lose their sting, confusion loses its influence. You begin to understand that spiritual authority is not only exercised through prayer, it is exercised through conversation, through tone, through declarations, through the way you speak life into rooms where the enemy tried to plant death. And then something powerful begins to happen. Your words start restoring what the enemy attempted to erode. Joy rises where sorrow tried to settle. Hope breathes where fear tried to dominate. Unity strengthens where division tried to take root. Your home becomes a place where the Holy Spirit's voice speaks louder than the enemy's pressure. When your words are guided by the Spirit, your home stops reacting to warfare and begins resisting it. Every sentence becomes a shield, every declaration becomes a barrier, every truth becomes a sword, and the atmosphere is forced to align with the presence of God, rebuilding the spiritual walls of your home. Every home has spiritual walls. These walls are not made of brick or concrete. They are formed by unity, truth, forgiveness, consistency, and the presence of God. When these walls are strong, the enemy cannot easily enter. But when life becomes heavy, when wounds go unhealed, when silence replaces connection, when exhaustion weakens communication, cracks begin to form. The enemy does not always break into a home through obvious doors. Most of the time, he slips through cracks that no one noticed or no one wanted to confront. The Holy Spirit does not shame you for these cracks. The Spirit rebuilds them. Some cracks come from past trauma. Old wounds that were never fully healed create openings where fear, insecurity, or emotional distance can settle. These wounds may belong to you, your spouse, or your children. They may have been passed down through generations. Trauma weakens the structure of the heart, and the atmosphere of the home reflects that fragility. But the Holy Spirit rebuilds strength where pain left weakness. The Spirit brings healing not to erase the past, but to seal the places where it once created vulnerability. Other cracks are formed by unforgiveness. Even small, unresolved hurts can accumulate until they become structural weaknesses. You begin adjusting your behavior, your expectations, even your conversations around wounds you never addressed. Unforgiveness creates spiritual fractures because it separates hearts that were meant to stay united. But the Holy Spirit restores what unforgiveness tried to separate. The Spirit softens the heart, opens the path toward reconciliation, and seals the crack where bitterness once entered. There are also cracks created by silence, not the silence of wisdom, but the silence of avoidance. When issues are ignored instead of healed, they create empty spaces where misunderstanding grows. Silence can feel peaceful for a moment, but it leaves walls unguarded. The enemy uses these unspoken areas to plant assumptions, doubts, and fears. The Holy Spirit rebuilds these gaps by prompting honest dialogue, courageous expression, and gentle clarity. Neglect also creates cracks. Not intentional neglect, but the slow forgetting of spiritual practices that once guarded your home. Prayer becomes occasional, gratitude becomes seasonal, Connection becomes inconsistent. Over time, the spiritual foundation weakens, but the Holy Spirit restores discipline without pressure. The Spirit rekindles desire for God's presence, reminding you that rebuilding does not require perfection, only consistency. As the Holy Spirit rebuilds these walls, something powerful happens. The atmosphere of the home begins to stabilize. Conflict loses its dominance. Confusion loses its voice. Peace begins to take root again, and the home that once felt vulnerable becomes fortified with divine strength. Rebuilding is not a quick process. It is intentional. It is sacred. It is guided by the Spirit who sees every weak place and fills it with supernatural reinforcement. The enemy may have slipped through cracks in the past, but once the Holy Spirit strengthens the structure of your home, those openings close permanently. You are not rebuilding alone. The Holy Spirit is the architect, the healer, the restorer, and the protector. And as the walls rise again, your home becomes a place where spiritual stability defeats every attempt of darkness to enter. The Holy Spirit and the ministry of peace as a weapon. Most people think peace is something soft, gentle, or passive, but spiritually, peace is one of the most powerful weapons God places inside a home. The enemy understands this better than anyone, which is why he fights so hard to disrupt it. He knows that a peaceful home is dangerous to darkness. Peace protects. Peace anchors the mind. Peace sharpens spiritual sensitivity. Peace restores emotional clarity. When peace rules a home, the enemy loses the ability to manipulate atmosphere. This is why the Holy Spirit does not simply comfort you with peace. The Spirit equips you with it as a form of warfare. Peace is not an escape from conflict. It is authority over it. The Holy Spirit releases peace that does not depend on external circumstances. This peace is not built on silence or avoidance. It is built on the presence of God. When the Holy Spirit fills a home with peace, chaos loses its footing. It becomes harder for arguments to escalate. It becomes harder for irritation to take root. It becomes harder for fear to influence decisions. Peace becomes a shield protecting every room, every heart, and every conversation. The enemy targets your peace because he knows it is the foundation of spiritual clarity. When peace is gone, confusion settles easily. When peace is gone, emotions spiral quickly. When peace is gone, thoughts become heavy and unpredictable. The enemy wants you unstable because instability creates openings he can exploit. But the Holy Spirit restores peace that stabilizes your soul, reconnects your thoughts to truth, and shuts down the emotional noise the enemy depends on. One of the most powerful roles of peace is its ability to reset the atmosphere. When the Holy Spirit releases peace, it does not just calm feelings, it cleanses the spiritual climate. Peace drives out agitation. Peace silences spiritual pressure. Peace interrupts cycles of tension. Peace forces the enemy to retreat because darkness cannot operate in an atmosphere governed by God's presence. This peace is described in Philippians chapter 4, verse 7 as surpassing all understanding. It does not make sense to the natural mind. It rises above logic and circumstances. It becomes a force that guards your heart and your thoughts. This is why the enemy tries to convince you that peace comes only after everything changes. But the Holy Spirit gives you peace that arrives before anything changes, because this peace is not a reaction. It is a declaration of who rules your home. When the Holy Spirit establishes peace in your household, it becomes harder for division to enter. Conversations soften, hearts open. The atmosphere feels lighter. Fear loses its influence. Irritation loses its momentum. Peace creates a spiritual environment where healing becomes possible and unity becomes natural. Peace also strengthens spiritual authority. When you speak from a place of peace, your words carry weight. When you pray with peace, your spirit becomes steady. When you make decisions with peace, the enemy cannot cloud your judgment. Peace grounds your authority, making your resistance against darkness stable and unwavering. The ministry of peace is not passive, it is warfare wrapped in calmness. It is strength disguised as stillness. It is God defending your home without raising his voice. When the Holy Spirit releases peace, the battle shifts. Chaos loses its power, darkness loses its grip, and your home becomes a refuge, protected by the very presence of God. Holy Spirit instructions for parents, spouses, and children. When the Holy Spirit moves inside a home, he does not offer general guidance. He gives precise instruction for every role, because the enemy attacks each person differently. Parents face pressure that children do not understand. Spouses carry internal battles they never fully express. Children experience emotional shifts they cannot articulate. The Holy Spirit sees every layer and speaks to each one with wisdom tailored to their position in the family. This guidance is not harsh. It is protective. It is strategic. It is designed to restore strength in the exact area where the enemy has been applying force. For parents, the Holy Spirit gives clarity. The enemy tries to overwhelm parents with guilt, discouragement, and the fear of not doing enough. But the Holy Spirit reminds parents that influence begins with presence, not perfection. The Spirit strengthens patience when frustration rises. The Spirit restores authority when doubt tries to weaken confidence. The Spirit helps parents speak peace into the home instead of pressure. A parent guided by the Holy Spirit becomes a stabilizing force, not because they have all the answers, but because they listen to the one who does. For spouses, the Holy Spirit gives understanding. The enemy often attacks marriages through miscommunication and emotional disconnection, but the Holy Spirit softens hearts so unity can grow again. The Spirit reveals when a tone needs to change, when a conversation needs to wait, and when a wound needs to be addressed. The Spirit protects the marriage by guarding the emotional bond that holds it together. When a spouse listens to the Holy Spirit, they stop interpreting everything through hurt and begin seeing through compassion. This clarity becomes a wall the enemy cannot easily breach. For children, the Holy Spirit brings peace and reassurance. Children are often the most spiritually sensitive in the home, even when they do not understand what they feel. They react to shifts in atmosphere before adults notice them. The Spirit covers children with calmness, helping them navigate emotions that would otherwise overwhelm them. The Holy Spirit protects their hearts from fear, confusion, and insecurity. And the Spirit uses parents and caregivers to speak life over them, reinforcing identity and grounding them in love. The Holy Spirit also creates alignment among these roles. Instructions are not given in isolation, they work together. When parents operate with clarity, the home gains stability. When spouses walk in unity, the home gains harmony. When children rest in peace, the home gains softness. This alignment frustrates the enemy because he can no longer manipulate one member of the household to influence another. The Spirit closes the emotional gaps the enemy once used to magnify conflict. These instructions are not complex. They come through gentle conviction, quiet whisper, inner clarity, and sudden understanding. The Holy Spirit teaches you what to say, when to listen, when to step back, and when to engage. The Spirit helps you notice when someone in your home is carrying more weight than their words reveal. The Spirit nudges you toward kindness instead of reaction, and toward connection instead of avoidance. When each person in the home responds to the Holy Spirit in their role, the household becomes spiritually aligned. Conflict loses its fuel. Division loses its openings. Misunderstandings lose their grip. The home becomes synchronized under God's guidance. This alignment is not accidental. It is the result of each family member allowing the Holy Spirit to shape their actions, tone, and decisions. And when a family moves in unity under the guidance of the Spirit, the enemy cannot fracture what God Himself is binding together. the act of reclaiming your home from darkness. There comes a moment in spiritual warfare when awareness must turn into action. It is the moment when you stop observing the attack and begin reclaiming what belongs to your family. The Holy Spirit does not reveal the strategies of the enemy just to inform you. The Spirit equips you to take back the territory that darkness tried to occupy. This is the moment when you stand with authority, not fear, with clarity, not confusion, with conviction, not hesitation. Reclaiming your home is not a ritual. It is a shift in ownership. It is you declaring that your household is under the rule of God and that no spiritual force has the right to operate within its walls. The first step in reclaiming your home is recognizing that you are not doing it alone. The Holy Spirit goes before you. The Spirit establishes the atmosphere before you speak a word. When you reclaim your home, you are not confronting darkness with your strength. You are confronting it with God's authority. This is why reclaiming your home does not require shouting. It requires certainty. You are not attempting to win a battle. You are enforcing a victory that has already been granted to you through the presence of the Holy Spirit. There are moments when reclaiming your home begins with a simple declaration: "This house belongs to the Lord." When spoken with conviction, this sentence becomes a spiritual boundary that darkness cannot cross. You are reminding the atmosphere who governs it. You are reminding every spiritual force that attempted to influence your home that it has no legal ground. You are reminding your own heart that the authority inside you is stronger than the pressure around you. Reclaiming your home also involves confronting the areas where the enemy had access. You address the tension that tried to settle in conversations. You confront the fear that tried to whisper in the night. You break agreement with discouragement, division, and confusion. You take back the emotional rooms where heaviness tried to linger. You do this not by focusing on the darkness, but by filling the space with the Holy Spirit's presence, truth, and peace. There is also a moment when reclaiming your home becomes personal. You speak to the atmosphere with the authority given to you by God. You declare that anxiety has no place in your home. You declare that spiritual heaviness cannot remain. You declare that every assignment formed against your family is cancelled by the presence of the Holy Spirit. These declarations are not emotional explosions. They are acts of spiritual alignment. You are bringing your home back into agreement with heaven. The Holy Spirit may also lead you to walk through your rooms with intention, not out of superstition, but out of partnership with God. As you move, you reclaim space with truth, peace, and authority. You reclaim the bedroom where fear tried to enter. You reclaim the living room where arguments tried to grow. You reclaim the kitchen where silence tried to separate hearts. Every step becomes a declaration that your home is a sanctuary, not a battlefield controlled by darkness. And as you reclaim your home, something powerful begins to shift. The atmosphere becomes lighter. The heaviness that once lingered begins to dissolve. Tension weakens. Confusion loses its voice. Fear retreats. You feel the presence of the Holy Spirit settling into every room, every corner, every conversation. What once felt under attack now feels protected. What once felt unstable now feels grounded. What once felt dark now feels filled with the presence of God. Reclaiming your home is the moment when you stop surviving warfare and start defeating it. It is the moment when spiritual authority rises inside you and darkness recognizes that it cannot remain where the Holy Spirit dwells. Prophetic closing. Your home will not be lost. Your home has been through pressure that no one fully understands. You have faced moments when the atmosphere felt heavy, when peace felt distant, and when the unity of your family seemed fragile. Yet you are still here, and you are not here by accident. The Holy Spirit has been guarding your home even in moments when you felt overwhelmed, even in nights when you felt alone, even in days when discouragement tried to blind you. Now the Spirit speaks with clarity and certainty. Your home will not be lost. There is a prophetic truth you must hold on to. If the enemy has fought this fiercely against your household, it is because there is a divine purpose attached to your family. Darkness does not waste energy on empty places. The intensity of the attack reveals the importance of the calling. Your home carries a spiritual assignment, and the Holy Spirit is raising a wall of protection that cannot be broken. Every plan of darkness against your family is collapsing under the authority of God. The Holy Spirit is declaring over you that the atmosphere of your home is shifting. The tension that settled like a cloud is being lifted. The confusion the enemy planted is dissolving. The heaviness that drained your strength is breaking. The Spirit of God is restoring clarity, restoring unity, restoring peace, restoring joy. Your home is being realigned with heaven's purpose. The rooms that once felt heavy will feel warm again. The conversations that once felt tense will become soft again. What was stolen is returning. You may not see every change immediately, but the Holy Spirit is already moving. The spiritual walls of your household are rising higher. The cracks the enemy once used to slip through have been sealed by the presence of God. The places where fear whispered now echo with the voice of truth. The moments where darkness tried to linger are being filled with light that cannot be extinguished. The Holy Spirit speaks over you now. No weapon formed against your family will prosper. This is not a hopeful wish. It is a spiritual law. Every attempt to divide your home is losing its power. Every strategy sent to weaken your unity is failing. Every force of heaviness is retreating. The Spirit of God has declared ownership over your home, and darkness cannot occupy a place that God has claimed. You are stepping into a new season of spiritual awareness. You will recognize attacks before they form. You will discern shifts in atmosphere before conflict grows. You will speak with authority, restore peace with confidence, and guard your home with strength the enemy cannot withstand. This household will not be a battleground of defeat. It will be a sanctuary of God's presence, a place of healing, a place of restoration, a place where the Holy Spirit moves freely. Your home is covered. Your family is protected. The future of your household is secure in the hands of God. The enemy fought hard, but he did not win. He will not win. He cannot win. Because the Holy Spirit has taken his place within your walls, and where the Spirit of God dwells, darkness has no authority. Your home will not be lost. It will stand. It will thrive. It will become a testimony of God's protection and power.